from CII-ITC Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We will now get started as I still see more people logging in. Now, as we are all aware that the SEBI circular in India, which has gained momentum since its release beginning last year, has been in focus and is extensively discussed amongst the top 500 listed Indian companies currently. Now, as companies are gearing up or have already started preparing for the integrated reporting journey, we are seeing a growing interest in making a transition to integrated reporting. Now, as the topic suggests, the webinar will primarily focus on assurance on integrated reporting. Before we get started, a quick look at the flow of the webinar. We will start with a quick recap of IR in India and understand a little bit about the SEBI circular requirements. Now, for this session, we decided to have international speakers give their global perspective on assurance on integrated reporting. We also have an Indian corporate which will be sharing its integrated reporting story and eventually releasing their India's only externally assured annual integrated report in FY 2017. So we are very encouraged and we hope to address an important topic today. In the end, we will have a Q&A round for addressing your queries. May I request all the participants to keep their questions short, and we will try to address as many as we can depending on the availability of time. I'm very glad to introduce our speakers for the webinar today. First up, we have Alan McGill. Alan is a partner in PwC and leads on integrated reporting and assurance, as well as being the global sustainability reporting and assurance leader. Alan also sits on the IAASB project called Emerging External Reporting, that is looking at establishing approaches to how measurement and reporting in this space can be established. He has been instrumental in developing the Total Impact Measurement and Management TIMM offering within PwC, which is a way in which companies can explain their impacts across multiple capitals. Then we have Tjeerd Krumpelman. Tjeerd is head of business advisory at ABN AMRO with more than 17 years of experience in the banking industry. In the banking sector, he started as a private banker, investment advisor, and later on as head of investment team. He's currently working within the ABN AMRO Corporate Strategy and Sustainability Department. He heads up a team that is working on ABN AMRO's sustainability strategy and integrated thinking and reporting. The team's focus is on assessing materiality, advice on integrated thinking and reporting. Then we have Rakesh Agarwal. Rakesh is Vice President at Reliance Industries Limited with more than 22 years of experience. His domain competencies involve understanding strategy to execution, sustainability and accountancy. At Reliance Industries, he has led many roles under corporate sustainability reporting, annual reporting. He's led accounting. He's been a lead at accounting for Reliance Group, covering various businesses. Now, responsible for Reliance Industries' integrated annual report, which was very well received by its stakeholders, Rakesh has been instrumental for its highest level of assurance from the Big Four. I have been a part of the center since 2.5 years now and been primarily involved in leading integrated reporting initiative at the center. I have the responsibility of reaching out to corporates for the IR framework, thereby trying to increase the pace of adoption in India. Also hand-holding first-time preparers with a focus on high-quality corporate reporting. I have close to 10 years of work experience, which is spread out across sustainability, financial and business research. Very quickly about our center. It is a not-for-profit industry-led institution Our main mandate is to help companies become sustainable organizations from economic, environment, social, and governance point of view, and make them entities that create sustainable value for their relevant stakeholders. We are located at 3 different places in India, Delhi, Gurgaon, and Mumbai. And we are very glad that we were the ones to work with IIRC to bring integrated reporting in India. In a way, we are delighted that things have started to move forward and we are able to strengthen our working relationship with IIRC. Special thanks to Sarah Gray for all her support. All in all, our attempt is to make Indian corporates globally competitive, but also in a sustainable manner. Our initiative on integrated reporting called the IR Lab India is a collective of different stakeholders of the business ecosystem. We have member companies that have to do integrated reporting. We also have the market regulator. We have both the stock exchanges, BSE and LSE, and the 3 professional institutes, and also the academia. Now, there are many companies outside this initiative that are currently looking at integrated reporting. A quick mention that we do have a couple of our members who have practiced IR. Worth mentioning is Tata Steel, Wipro, Reliance Industries, and Tata Chemicals. Outside this initiative, a lot of companies are looking at integrated reporting either through an internal release within their organization or external release on the public domain. Our estimate is that we will witness a good number of companies coming out with an integrated report for FY18. And FY19, we will see a major upward movement, as by then we feel that companies would have come up their learning curve to adopt or evolve the framework. How is our center helping companies to do integrated report? As I mentioned, we have a very clear mandate. It has always been to facilitate organizations to be future-proof by high-level standards of transparency of financial and non-financial information through annual corporate reporting. With this focused objective to scale up adoption of improved corporate reporting in India, we do envisage better reporting ecosystem with evolved dialogues and holistic integration of different reporting requirements. Our advocacy work primarily entails capacity building activities through webinars like these, through training workshops across the country. We conduct external workshops and one-day in-company training sessions as well. Our forthcoming external workshop is scheduled in Delhi in June this year. Please get in touch with us for more details. We also conduct gap analysis, which is primarily from the content point of view for an integrated report. Through this analysis, we are able to gauge where the company is in terms of availability of information required for preparing an integrated report and where are the gaps. Now, we also have a competency in building business model for various industries and articulating it concisely in the integrated reports. We also help companies in understanding their sectors, in understanding their peers, who they would want to refer to for their reports. So we are available to handhold companies by doing all this in order to help them make a smooth transition to integrated reporting. We try to outline a very detailed roadmap for companies with achievable milestones and suggest the IR flow in the annual report. As what the slide says, IR is an evolution of corporate reporting. Now, for the newcomers here today, it is very important to understand that integrated reporting is not an improvement of financial reporting. We've been saying it to the companies. We have said it in almost all our webinars that it is neither an improvement of sustainability reporting. It is not even a combined report. It is not taking your annual report and your sustainability report and binding the two together into one report. It is really about connecting the different issues, connecting the dots, putting it together, and therefore the term integrated. We feel that it is as much a management tool as it is a reporting framework. We tell the companies to first internalize the framework, internalize integrated thinking, and then use it to communicate their value creation story to their various stakeholders. And hence it is sufficient to say that integrated reporting it is an evolution of corporate reporting, taking it to the next level. Now, for the benefit of everybody, and a quick recap, if I can say, to understand the SEBI circular and its requirements. You can view our previous webinars, which are available on our YouTube channel. We have tried to address various topics on integrated reporting for your reference. So we'll quickly try to understand parts of the language of the integrated reporting circular. As it says, it's applied to top 500 listed companies, which are also required to prepare the business responsibility reporting mandatorily. When does this get into force? FY 2017-2018 onwards, which would be a first annual report to convert into integrated report by adopting the framework with one of the three options available as per the circular. Now, there is no need to prepare a separate integrated report in terms of printing it. Make one, put it on the company's website where all your other periodic reports go under the investors section. However, if you've already prepared an integrated report, reference it in the annual report, and that would suffice. Now, how you should prepare the integrated report? As the circular suggests, there are three options that can be adopted. It is now why the three options are given is because the practice of preparing integrated reports is still relatively new. Globally, under various jurisdictions, it would have picked up pace, but as and when they started, they also had similar options available for the companies. Here in India as well, we have these three options, and we will see how companies progress from here and what is the most preferred option. And then perhaps in the future, there might be just one way of putting the integrated report. In India, we have seen, for instance, Wipro, who has strategically structured its MD&A, that is Management Discussion Analysis section, according to the integrated reporting principles and capitals. Tata Steel has converted its entire annual report into integrated report. So those are the two options. And then there's a third option also, which is in use around the world, where you could have a separate chapter. Companies are encouraged to identify overlapping content in order to avoid duplication or replication of information with other financial and non-financial reports. In India, we have various reports, such as the Director's Report, the BRR, Sustainability Report, your annual report. Cross-referencing information is highly recommended. The details could be in the relevant disclosures, which is stipulated either by the regulator or you're already using other voluntary reporting frameworks such as the GRI for sustainability reports. So look at the entire web of different reports and disclosures that you do, and then use the cross-referencing rather than duplicate the information to keep your integrated report concise. With that, I would like to just mention quickly before I hand it over to Alan, is that assurance on integrated reporting is a globally discussed and debated topic. A lot of working groups are currently in the process of formulating assurance standards for integrated reports. Now, bringing a focus on how important is assurance in the IR process, what are the costs and benefits to the company, what are the technical challenges faced by the company, key skills and competencies required for assurance, etc. So to answer all these questions, we decided to bring in the experts who have great knowledge on the subject and also those who have learned while they were on their integrated reporting journey. So we wanted them to share their views and experiences. We are hoping that companies will be able to gain knowledge and a perspective on assurance from the session. With this, I would now stop and hand it over to Alan. I welcome Alan McGill, who's joined us from South Africa today.
Hello to everybody. Can I just check that you can hear me correctly and clearly?
Good morning, Alan. Priyanka here. Yes.
Good morning, Priyanka.
Yes, we can hear you, and we can also see your screen.
Great. Can you see the slide, the new perspective on performance now?
Yes, we can. We can see the slide. Yes, you can go ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you, Priyanka, and welcome to everybody who is on the webinar today. As Priyanka has just outlined, what I would like to do in the next few minutes is just talk to you about the journey that probably a lot of you are on in terms of your integrated both thinking and reporting, and to think about the ways in which you as organizations can gain sort of comfort over that information and over the sort of impacts that you are starting to report and the broader performance in terms of that integrated report around the different capitals that you are probably interacting with. Hopefully, as a very small bit of context and to build on what Priyanka was talking about before, what you can see here is probably a bit of an evolution for a lot of the reporting that you as organizations are on in terms of that reporting pathway. And there is the move, as I say, towards the inclusion of other sort of non-financial information into annual reports and accounts, which typically starts with a sustainability report and sustainability related information, but is not restricted in any means to just information about sustainability. So as you integrate those broader information sets and as you start to produce not just one integrated report, but essentially any sort of communication or reporting that an organization does, you will start to have sets of integrated reports and information which are probably being shared with multiple stakeholder groups, not just investors, as you identify and understand which stakeholder groups become important in your ecosphere in which you operate. And it's these different parts of civil society where the concept of assurance and the concept of getting comfort over the use of the information that the organization is reporting is one where lots of organizations are now starting to think very carefully about what and how they do that. As Priyanka spoke and talked about, some of those challenges are around clearly understanding what actual information in the first place you need to actually both collect and report on. Some of the issues that then exist around the measurement of that information, the consistency of that information, the robustness of that information and the data with which you are reporting, and the level of comfort then that you need to get over that information and what you need part of that. And as a result of that, there are a number of different ways in which an organization can start to seek that internal comfort in relation to the information that they are reporting. And there are many ways in which an organization can go about doing that. And this slide just illustrates a few of the examples that are traditional for approaches to assurance approach. The first is that for many organizations, they will probably engage internally, first of all, over this new data and understanding how you can get your internal audit departments engaged to have a look at some of these new forms of information, the innovation that you might be doing around some of the data which you are reporting on is a great way to start to engage, as I say, internally and to understand what you need to do to improve the robustness of that data and improve the quality of the information that you are reporting. Another way which can be used in conjunction then with the internal audit, and I would say that each of these sort of ways and approaches are not mutually exclusive. Again, they can all be used and integrated in a form that allows the holistic picture of assurance to come together. But another way then is the use of independent or sort of joint reports that might be issued with potentially NGOs or other stakeholder groups. Because the fact that a company outside of your organization is happy to engage with yourselves to report information and to put their name alongside that gives stakeholder groups and investors comfort and improved comfort over the information that has been and is being reported. There may be independent, what are called insight reports. So these are reports by independent third parties who come along and actually provide some commentary over the data that you are reporting. It's not assurance in the formal sense where you might see a formal external opinion, an independent opinion being issued by a third party, but it does provide the reader with information about how the information is collected and reported, and therefore great insight around the quality of that data and potentially about how hard or how soft some of that information being reported actually is. You have targeted testing. These might also be called perhaps agreed upon procedures, where the organization asks specific tests to be carried out on certain information. That report can be either kept privately to management so they can gain some comfort before they report the information, or alternatively again can be made public to give comfort to the readers of the information. And then finally there is the external formal assurance, where you may engage a particular organization to come along and provide assurance over those broader information sets and sitting alongside obviously the information in relation to the financial data that is reported. And there is an opportunity there clearly to look at how that integration of both the financial and the non-financial information comes together to produce an integrated assurance report. But as I say, that's just one part, I believe, of the way in which an organization can gain the comfort over that information that they are reporting. This next slide shows that there is already a report and some feedback that has been done by the CII-ITC on the integrated reporting and assurance of integrated reports. And you can see here that the headline figure is that 60% of the reports reviewed had gained some form of assurance actually over the report that they had issued, and that was significantly up from the previous year, as you can see, which was from 46%. So this is for those of you who perhaps have not seen this report, I would recommend that you go to the IR website and download and have a read of this report. There's some very interesting information in there about current trends and what's going on, and the approaches to the scope as well of what is reported and what is assured. And it's the scoping as well, which is obviously very important in terms of understanding what you might go and get integrated assurance over in terms of the information included within your internal integrated report. I wanted to show an example here of perhaps an organisation. It's a company called The Crown Estate. It's a company based in the UK. The report that you see down there in the bottom left-hand corner, it says everything is connected, is their version of their what they would call their integrated report. And essentially the extract from their report that you see there in the center of the slide talks about the 6 different capitals, which you see there in terms of what they rely on, but also the valuations associated with those capitals. So they have gone through a process of understanding not just which capitals are important to them in terms of their strategic objectives and where they are going, but also critically for them, they have sought and gone through a process to look at how they monetize those particular capitals to come up with values that can be then used internally within the business to help inform the decision-making process. Now, what they've recognized with that integration in terms of the capitals, the strategy, their risk analysis, the valuations that have come up, which you can see there, is that a number of those capitals and some of the information that you see is not particularly robust in places, and there are many different reasons for that. It might be there may not be a lack of availability of information. There may not be any particular agreed standards about how you might measure some of the values relating to the capitals that you see. And so as a result of that, they have gone through a process of integrating both formal external assurance over their data and their information, as well as providing additional insight in relation to what slide shows through the use of a diagram, effectively different dimensions to the data that is being reported. So you will see the 6 capitals, that there are dimensions A to F, which is shown below in the bottom of the screen, and those out effectively and give a pictorial description of the quality associated with each of those dimensions around the maturity of the information. So you can quickly see here that information perhaps around both their physical resources, capitals, and their natural resources, capitals, that the data there is more robust than perhaps their know-how or networks data. And you can see that within the dimension E, dimension F, I beg your pardon, that talks about external validation, where the company, in this case the Crown Estate, has engaged different forms of the information and over the data. So it is approaching how they deliver their integrated assurance in a way the reader understanding of how this information and therefore what to do with it when you use it. So it looks at some of the issues around the data station. It integrates formal external assurance and understands sort of some of the skills that are needed to be able to use data and to understand how to use it, not just within the organization, but how the readers of the information should also use this this content as well. That was the end of my slides, and excuse me, that was a very, very quick whistle of an approach to how organizations are starting to integrate assurance. But with that, I think there will be an opportunity for questions at the end, and I would like to hand back to Priyanka for the speaker.
Thank you, Alan, for explaining the assurance process for integrated reporting and the current status on assurance globally. This is very informative, and thank you for your time. We will take, as you mentioned, all the questions at the end. And now I would like to hand it over to our next speaker, Tjeerd Krumpelman from ABN AMRO. Good morning, Tjeerd. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning, Tjeerd. We can hear you clearly, and we can also see your screen.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here. Just wanted to share some examples that we had within ABN AMRO on integrated reporting and thinking, and wanted to start off with only two slides on ABN AMRO, just to give you a sense of where we are. We are a relatively small Dutch bank, about 20,000 employees, and mainly active in Northwest Europe, with about 150 billion in mortgages portfolio and about 150 billion in other loans. And of course we have an integrated strategy, because that's where everything starts. When you want to report integratedly or in an integrated way, it helps to integrate sustainability into your long-term strategy. So that's what we've been working on in the last couple of years, and it makes it easier, of course, for reporting people. But the objective of the game is to have integrated thinking in place, and that's what I wanted to share some thoughts on with you. So our journey towards creating long-term value. Why long-term value? Because the objective of integrated reporting or integrated thinking is to help create better decisions for senior management or for the board. And integrated reporting can really support that process. I like the quote of Larry Fink, who sent out a letter to all companies that they are investing in, urging them to show how they make a positive contribution to society. And by doing so, companies must benefit all their stakeholders. So that's an important, when people like Larry Fink or companies like BlackRock come out with these kinds of statements, then you know that integrated thinking and integrated reporting leading to long-term value creation is really on the rise. Another quote from McKinsey, which also helps in my case, or in our case internally, just to say that if people, if companies are better able to deliver long-term value to shareholders, and how are they going to do it? If they consider stakeholder concerns, and stakeholders is broader than just investors. And this is also from McKinsey, but it looks a lot like the IR framework. So I thought I'd share it with you. If you want to create stakeholder value, then look at it from the short, medium, and long-term perspective. And at the end of this, you will create some shareholder value. Sometimes it gets turned around within companies. I notice that a lot. But this is almost, in my view, the IR framework. So it helps us in that respect as well. Then I heard both Alan and Priyanka also speak about you need to start with integrated thinking before you can start on integrated reporting. We actually, and at the end of the game is long-term value creation, but we actually started the other way around. We started at integrated reporting. I see a lot of companies do this just to get started on integrated reporting, and then sometimes integrated thinking will follow. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. What also helps is to introduce the capitals into a company, just to get people thinking about what kinds of value are they creating. We all know, or most companies will know, the financial value that they are creating, but as probably you have all seen before, and the example of Crown Estate shows as well, there are a lot of other values such as human capital, social and relationship capital, intellectual capital, etc. And then the next question is, for whom do you want to create value? And that can differ per company, but it is important to establish for whom you are trying to create value. In our case, we have made the conscious and deliberate decision to create value for 4 different stakeholder groups. You see them on the screen here. In random order or in different order, depending on who you talk to, it will be employees, clients, investors, and society at large. And then the next question is always on what can we create value, or on what do we want to create value? I'm not going to go into all the topics on this materiality matrix, and probably you've seen other matrices as well. This is not the best in the world, but the idea here is to have a good conversation and with all your stakeholders, and to assess materiality in a proper way. Talking about assurance as well, what Alan already talked about, a good starting point for assurance could even be to get assurance on your materiality process. How are you determining where the value really is? So that could be even a starting point before you start on integrated reporting. At the end of the process, there could be a value creation model, and the model by itself, I see a lot of these models. We have one, so I'm showing it to you now. It's not perfect, but the most interesting about the model is the making of the model and the debating the model with senior management, with board people, having them think about what kind of value are we creating, and on which of the capitals do we want to create more value, or how can we improve on this. So actually having them think about, consciously think about how they are creating value, or how we as a company are creating value. Okay, then a little history on our approach or our journey to integrated reporting. And as I said in the beginning, IRC also quotes integrated reporting is a process founded on integrated thinking, but I'm guessing that most of you in this webinar are working on reports or on reporting or on assurance. And what do you do when you enter a company or working in a company where integrated thinking is not that mature yet? Then well, it was the case at ABN AMRO, and at a certain point we said, well, let's just start on the journey of integrated reporting and see where we go. See how this can support integrated thinking. Because if we wait for the whole company to think integratedly, then it will take too long. This quote also really helps. Why are we making an integrated report? Is it because of sustainability, or is it because of societal organizations? No, it is to explain to the providers of financial capital how we create value over time. And I like this quote a lot because it shows that it's really targeting towards investors. And investors are, specifically for larger companies or stock listed companies, are an important stakeholder. Just to repeat a little on this, because what we did in recent years is we tried to adopt the guiding principles of integrated reporting into our integrated report, and we took it a little further last year, or on the 2017 report. We made this the backbone of our total report and asked for assurance on this to EY. I'll show you a little how that worked in a minute. And I also like to emphasize that it is really a journey. It is not something that you should have, from my point of view, an ambition on to do it in 1 year or in 2 years. It took us at least 3 or 4 years to even start, and it took us another 2 to 3 years to further develop. And I believe we're still not there. We're still developing and still trying to improve on where we are. And I'll show you a few milestones that we had along the way. So back in 2011, we even had a separate sustainability flyer. I wouldn't even call it a report. It says report here, but it was actually just a starting point on sustainability. Next year we did a sustainability report based on GRI and a separate annual report, of course. After that we got to work on some assurance on some data points, mainly sustainability CO2 related data, always based on GRI. And in 2014 we did our first materiality assessment, so that improved the report a little, but it was still very much focused on sustainability as being a separate report. So in 2015 we said, or in the reporting year 2015, we said we need to do this differently. We want to make an integrated report. There was no integrated thinking, or hardly any integrated thinking within the company, but we said, looking at the principles of IRC, let's try and create an integrated report. So we did one, our first one. We were very excited. We were very proud. It was based on integrated reporting framework and had a small assurance based on GRI and on a couple of metrics. And we did our first value creation model, which was not very good, but it led to a great debate internally on value creation. So it was very worthwhile. At the same time, in 2015, we found that once we integrate these reports, which was the factual case, we integrated sustainability into the annual report. We also were missing out on some communications targeting different stakeholder groups. So we made a website, we introduced a newsletter, we introduced different kinds of communication to support that or to fill that gap, so to say. 2016, we did an improved integrated annual report with new materiality matrix. So we did some improvements on the report that we did 2015, and again we were quite proud, but the report kept getting bigger. So it was almost 400 pages, and that was a bit too much. So in 2017, we did a separate human rights report. I'll not go into that for now, but good to know. And we got some awards for it, so it was very encouraging to keep on this journey. Last year we decided to do the core and more approach, and to take it a step further and to ask EY in this case for assurance based on the IRC framework. And I'll show you a slide on how this core and more approach really helped us in developing integrated thinking and integrated reporting. In case of banking, but I've seen it in other companies as well, there's a lot of legal obligations into your annual report. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be in the annual report. And it's not really helpful from a materiality perspective or from a value creation perspective. So what we did is we defined some reports that we need to do or that we want to do. So an annual report that has all the legal obligations, a Pillar 3 report, which is more on financial sides. We did a separate SDG report, and we did a human rights update, and we had some sustainability disclosures. But the core report was an integrated annual review with assurance based on the IR framework. And that was, once we made this decision, that was really helpful to push integrated reporting even further within the company. So we got the assurance from EY. I believe I still haven't found any other, so we can still say we are the first in the world to get assurance based on IRC framework, and we were at least the first for EY, and we found it to be really helpful to have this type of assurance. It really improved the report. And it also improved the structure of the report, so it helped us great. Just 2 or 3 more slides on where is this taking us? So why are we spending a lot of time, effort, and resources on this reporting? Again, in the end, you want to create long-term value, but how is integrated thinking and reporting supporting this? It's supporting the better decision making. So if you have a more integrated view, either from a report or from a thinking perspective, it really supports decision making and helps you to create more long-term value. And that's one of the biggest benefits that I really emphasize and would like to emphasize today as well. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to start the journey of integrated reporting. It takes a lot of time, but try and keep focus and keep your internal stakeholders on track, because the ultimate goal will be that a company is better positioned to create long-term value, and that is in essence what boards and investors and other stakeholders are looking for. I could talk a lot more on our journey, but I think I captured the highlights, and I said questions here, but I agree that let's do questions at the end. So thank you. Handing it back to Priyanka.
Thank you, Ted, for sharing your experience on IR journey, and as you mentioned, your journey towards creating long-term value. And as you had mentioned and sort of validated our point where we tell the Indian companies as well to spend more time in building their business model and understanding their value creation process is what is very important in the entire process. So thank you once again for sharing your experience. And now I would like to hand it over to Mr. Rakesh Agarwal, who is going to be speaking about their annual integrated report, which is India's first externally assured annual integrated report. Good afternoon, Mr. Agarwal. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, very loud and clear, and we can see your screen as well.
Very good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be directly going into the reporting journey, integrated reporting of Reliance Industries that we did for the year ended March 31st, 2017. And before that, we'll give you a quick background. Yes, I do agree with the fundamental statement, and that is what we witnessed. Integrated reporting is connecting the dots of integrated thinking and then making it as a part of functional excellence, that is centers of excellence, and reporting to the external world. If I have to look at any story, for any storyline to be credible as far as the reporting framework is concerned, that framework has to be self-balancing. What that self-balancing means. Let me start with a fundamental example, just as a proxy before we get into integrated reporting, self-balancing. When we say for a manufacturing company, we buy and sell goods, we know the fundamental equation, opening stock plus purchases less sales is equal to closing stock. When we are reporting management concepts, the same way the equation looks like as sensing of external environment, making a material assessment, coming a strategy out of it, which is not only good for the company, but also broader stakeholder, thereby claiming the stake of corporate stewardship, reporting the execution of that strategy, and then self-correcting through enterprise risk management, institutionalizing the systems within the company, and then again sensing the external environment, so on and so on. So once we look into Reliance Integrated Report, we have 6 businesses. Today, we are always in last 5 years either number 1 or number 2 by market cap in India. This year we had $10 billion worth of EBITDA, and the touch points are 700 million Indians. We have no choice but to act responsibly as a corporate citizen. Once you look at the Reliance Integrated Report, with each page references, for each of the items, you'll say that you'll find this integrated business model snapshot, which is nothing but the index of the entire report. You'll find the external environment, which has been subsequently discussed. You'll find the process, as well as the strategy coming out of those value chain analysis. And again, the page numbers for all the 6 businesses are disclosed. Here you then map the performance with the benchmarks. And once you map after discussing performance with the benchmarks, either you are doing well or you are doing lower than the benchmarks. If you are doing well, the proof is you are investing further in your own self as capex plans. If you're not doing well, then perhaps you restructure or acquire somebody else. All this is, there is a mid-course correction because strategy is medium term, vision is long term. So you have enterprise risk management, which is making the course correction as far as the strategy is concerned. And the way it is institutionalized, it is Reliance Management System. Now, before I get into connecting the dots of this larger integrated reporting, let me give you some insights or a few concepts that we encountered. And then we'll come back to the integrated reporting. Here, as a sensing the external environment, we have World Economic Forum's report, which is talking about deep shifts for the fourth industrial revolution, as well as the global risk. Now, these deep shifts, because we primarily operate in Indian environment, we made a mapping of which are those BSE 30 companies, that is Sensex companies, 30 companies, what are the deep shifts happening, how it will change, and you'll find a discussion around that in the integrated report. Looking at those deep shifts, including the risk assessment, the way World Economic Forum viewed risk in 2008 versus 2018, that itself is changing, that today people are more focusing on climate and cyber. And again, all this, whatever is being talked at global scale, you'll find a place in the integrated annual report. Also, we should respect what are the likely future shocks. We need not have a detailed laundry list, but perhaps 4 or 5 points makes it all, say 80% of that. And we should have an answer to that in the integrated annual report. This is the thing that when we need to scale up anything using the lean structure, let's look at the fundamentals, which is the effective use of RAPID and RACI as part of fundamental concepts. To explain it, say in an organization which employs either 1 lakh people, say 100,000 people or 1 million people, typically you'll find that a reporting structure is 8 to 12 employees. Presuming 10 for sake of simplicity, considering even BPO and operational excellence team, 4 layers of review will cover 1 lakh employees, and 6 layers of review will cover more than 1 million employees. In other words, there are better ways to look at it. If I have to put at it from the eyes of layers of reporting, most of the domain experts look at the functional area and the things that organization stands for in relation to those functional domains, and there are 100 plus functional domains, be it energy, be it HR, be it learning and development, and the focus is around process, system, and data. So I'll say that these are the bottom 4 layers to begin with. The middle management institutionalized as to what they envision has to, whether it's been effectively executed and being governed. So let's put a layer called organization and governance, and the top management literally have the strategy reinvent in line with vision. With this background, there is a deep shift, there are layers of reporting, there are different functions, there is a need to connect the dots. And true learning and development team has to come out from the old age domain expert skills to additional skills. And that is being taken part of normal operating working model. Now, coming to specifics about us. When we thought through, typically to explain to the larger management as a normal storyline, most of the management will have vision stewardship and we would like to be best. We reinvent ourselves, we execute, there is a functional excellence, and finally reporting. But when we speak to the management, the things that typically came up for discussion are, oh, McKinsey says this should be the focus area to stay for long effectively. The manufacturing team said emission control, safe and workplace is the focus area and the license to operate. CEO to CEO appeal, various business CEOs, they said organization agility to adopt with societal values is the need of the hour for us to remain in business. Learning and development team said, oh, we need next line of leader and there has to be a talent pipeline. The non-governmental organization, the foundation arm says poverty elimination so that rich can coexist with poor is the need of the hour. The audit team mentioned that regular review of strategic risk and course correction is the need of the hour. HR, yes, and of course the top management primarily focuses on values and behavior. Legal team thought about no, we should bring out compliance is the necessary thing to be taken as license to operate. The secretarial team mentioned no, corporate governance is the thing that we have to adhere with the highest level in the organization. R&D team mentioned that look at beyond the existing businesses so that we bring those new inventions using Moore's law and tiding into the future with the current disruption that we are having. Supply chain, the human rights focus has to be necessarily there because directly or indirectly, it is a license to operate. For customers, it was marketing 3.0, that is appealing beyond the functional excellence. The thought leaders talked about the shrinking life cycles of the business, including ability to self-cannibalize whatever we are doing. And above all, there are a lot of guidance, be it sustainability development goals, be it Niti Aayog, and some data point related journey we have already progressed through GRI reporting. For last 10 years, using the old GRI framework, we always had A+ certification consistently for all the years, and we were 1 year ahead of the time to move to G4 report. And all this when we integrated, the way it works is in a large conglomerate, there are 100+ business leaders in charge of various functions, and these are governed at organization and governance level using operating models. The operating models are much beyond the basics of process, system, and data. So there was a need to check whether all those things which we are saying and standing for, A, it is already forming part of the operating model of the respective business and functions. If it is not forming part of the operating model using the world-class benchmarks, then whether it is to be integrated and with what roadmap it needs to be integrated into the roadmap of respective operating models. So if somebody is already doing, we don't say, you do it. If others are not doing it, we'll sensitize the world is better than us, or these are the need of the hour, so why don't you please integrate? And that is directly reviewed by the highest level in the organization. So when we looked at what the world thinks as to what is material for us, what we think what is material for us, using a lot of stakeholder engagement, of course, followed by audits, internal and external, we came out with a laundry list of material topics. And using MECE model, we shrinked it where perhaps 10+ material issues and 10+ alignments will effectively take care of 90% of all material issues when clustered together. So we set out the target, or we enabled a discussion around what should be the target, near term and long term, and which are the departments that needs to be aligned, and which are the operating models that needs to be connected, which is regularly being taken care of, functional reviews and business reviews, at least on quarterly basis. It is this alignment which broadly existed for hundreds of initiatives that has been done. This integrated thinking initiative also got added, and there were certain minor exceptions which were streamlined. After that, now coming to, if you are already doing it, where do we stand today? There are certain litmus tests. We'll put it, there is a 40-year DNA where we have grown in terms of market cap, which is, and in terms of shareholders value, every 2.5 years, the shareholder values have doubled last 40 years. While doing that, if I have to explain to a layman as to what were the societal values, I'll say that first, bringing products which never existed in India at a scale and at such tremendously low price, which is the largest and the cheapest in the world. And this year example is in rollout of 4G services for Jio. Today, the data that is being consumed by Indian consumer is 20 times cheaper than what is offered at world prices. And putting all the top 4 US companies together, whatever data they offer in US, our total consumption in data offered by us is more than that. That's the revolution that we have brought today at affordable prices. And today we have some 500 million touch points with respect to data consumption, 10 GB data per day for every Indian that is being consumed today. When we talk about impact on the way we operate, the impact on air, water, soil, non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations. I'll say that for all practical purposes, we are the largest taxpayer. In terms of impact for society, one of the largest ecosystem impacting employment generation, and through foundation impacting some 15 million people. The way we have operated is we have contributed towards best in class for clean air, more water, and negligible soil contamination. I'll give you data for that. When we say emissions, that is clean air, we stand in 64th quartile. If an average refinery is having emission level of X for X level of production, using Solomon Energy Index, where our intensity level is just 64 or say 65, which is we consume 1/3 less energy compared to the global standards. When it comes to water consumption, the biggest super site in the world, which perhaps may have a boundary line of more than 60 miles, this super site is designed to work without a drop of single fresh water reverse withdrawal. It directly take it from the sea with the desalination project, and that was installed long time back. When it comes to soil contamination, the biggest recycler of plastics in India at this juncture. And when it comes to whatever we create, it is created for long, that is efficient and very strong infrastructure. So if I have to look at societal values, yes, in the journey, the society was respected. There were acts of balancing, but the society was respected well beyond the established standards, I'll say best in class. All this when synthesized, there are global literature. The global literature covers sustainability development goals. The global literature covers now in India, say PMO office goals, which has been set for us. There is a GRI framework in place, but amongst all the framework, what we found was integrated reporting framework was one of the best that allowed us to connect the dots, what we are already doing, and it also enabled us to look or self-evaluate ourselves the areas where we need to align more. To this extent, I strongly recommend that integrated reporting is the reporting of the future and must be, and I'll say it must be adopted by larger BSE 30 companies, connecting the dots, giving the picture which has not been given before to the larger society at large, which Reliance Industries did. Now I'd like to take your question. Now I would like to hand over to Priyanka.
Thank you, Mr. Agrawal, for sharing your experience, your hands-on experience of your IR journey. And of course, your experience of sharing your integrated report.